Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast for South America, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Let's check in first on our total satellite dry precipitation from September 1st through the 19th. And if we just take a look at those areas that have seen more than about 2 inches of rainfall, this color on up, we do notice that there's just a very few kind of regions here in Brazil that still have yet to get that rainfall total. It includes parts of eastern Mato Grosso, Goiás, which is here, Tocantins here, and then over into eastern growing regions of Brazil. Southern Brazil, as we've been noting, has been very wet, as has Buenos Aires province and parts of the eastern side of the Argentinian kind of corn and soybean belt. A little bit farther to the west, there have been pockets of where we grow wheat down here that have been a little bit drier, but really what we're looking at primarily in this forecast is what's going on with our monsoon. I do want to take another look at this, and we're going to look at the 10-day standard precipitation index from CHIRPS. So what I would be on the lookout for is if we're starting to see a lot of these colors show up in certain areas. That would be where the monsoon has been extremely late. And overall, we don't see that. You just look across Brazil here, and we just don't. So what's going on right now in the flow is that things look like this. Let's let this readjust. There we go. So we have a pretty deep low that is down here, and there's a front that's tucked away here. This is not yet the ideal setup for the monsoon. In other words, if we look at the flow of the wind, this is 850 millibars. We're getting flow coming in here, and it's weakly coming up into the ITCZ. The full-on Brazilian monsoon flow would pull into this very high humidity air that can sometimes be here, into the Amazon, and then around in this direction. So can you see how we're not quite there yet? Maybe an easier way to see this is if I were to turn on something called total precipitable water. And now what you start to see is this drier pocket that's in place here. So what we need to ask ourselves, does anything displace this drier air? Because the wettest air is staying in the Amazon and down here in southern Brazil coming out of Argentina, where we're getting flow around this deep low that's in place here. So we need to be on the lookout for those things as we kind of press forward in this forecast. So let's go take a look at the latest satellite data. The sun has already set there, so let's bring it back up. And what do you see as I kind of show you this afternoon and this evening? There's a line of storms that broke out here just south of the Amazon. But where that dry air is in place, not a cloud to really be seen in the sky except for some very small cumulus clouds. So that's the way things kind of shaped up today. We're waiting still on the full arrival of that monsoon. But let's watch the precipitable water forecast to see if that does in fact happen. So when you look at this again, the higher the value is over here on this color bar, the more moisture there is in the atmosphere to precipitate out. Doesn't mean it all comes out, but it's there and it's available. So there's that drier air that's being pushed across central Brazil right now with all the moisture to the north and here along the front. But as we play through Monday into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you already start to see the rebound of moisture coming into this area. Do you see it? And as we go even farther than that, there's even a tropical system here showing up in the water vapor. That would, of course, would be just north of the equator, about 10 to 15 degrees north. But we filled this in with higher moisture air, and it seems to be there and coming out through the weekend. This is now early next week on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So do you notice we've made a major change and filled in the holes here? The net effect of that is, over the next 10 days, the European model also starts to fill in that gap in the middle. Now, we're drier through Thursday and Friday, getting into Saturday and Sunday. But after that, we start to see this region showing up with better scattered storms. And there will be another front that swipes through down here in southern Brazil. There it goes right there. See it at the end of the time period? So what ends up happening here is going out about 8 or 9 days, we begin to return moisture to this area, and as a result, the model is pulling that out in the form of convection or storms. So this is bringing in more moisture to those regions that are going to need it in order to, to get this growing season going. And to the south, we'll just keep watching those fronts advance over parts of Argentina, really eastern Argentina, down here toward Buenos Aires province, and then getting into southern Brazil from Uruguay into Rio Grande do Sul. This will be the last holdout. It appears right in through here. Because if we just look over the next 10 days, this is the Precipitation Anomaly Map. So you can see that that would be the region that's left that stays drier than normal. So this includes Sao Paulo, this would be Paraná, Rio Grande, sorry, got to get my geography straight here. This would be Mato Grosso do Sul, and then part of Santa Catarina as well. And maybe another way to look at it, this is the probability of getting an inch of rain in the next 10 days, so through September 30th. So our last holdout is right down here overall with delays on precipitation. But then, as you're going to notice, with no real dominant signal to slow the monsoon down. I've looked at the MJO, I've looked at the Antarctic Oscillation of the Southern Annular Mode, I've looked at all of these factors, and what I don't see is any of them constructively working together to stop the onset of our normal monsoonal rain, at least at this point. I most certainly could be wrong, and something could step up and do that. But we need to ask, will this area fill in and will we keep the moisture going in this area? And as we look out exclusively at week 2, the European model suggests very close to average precipitation. Do you notice that? White would be close to average. This means a more normal monsoonal moisture. There's going to be this area, that area right in there that I'm going to watch more carefully. But we're wetter to the south of it and wetter to the north of it as well. So that's going to be important for the progress of the planting of this crop through the beginning of October. What I want to finish with is the new long-range weeklies. We've been watching these update, right? We now see a consistent picture that the models are really focusing on drying out from Rio Grande do Sul through Uruguay and much of Argentina. And a lot of this is predicated on the movement of our systems over the Southern Ocean. And what ends up happening here is we back off on the frequency of these fronts in this area, at least in the models. But you can almost get a sense of the return of the monsoonal circulation here. And as it appears, there's going to be plenty of high humidity air in place to come into this area. So even to be slightly drier than normal here still means that over the month of October, the potential is there for getting over 3 inches of rainfall. That's still a little drier than normal. So I do expect that the precipitation and the onset of the monsoon here is not going to cause the kind of delays that we saw a year ago. But it is important for us to just continue to monitor this. And so if anything changes, I'll give another video on Thursday to kind of show you the latest updates. Until then, have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.